Hello, I am Byron Hatcher with Keller Williams in Franklin, Tennessee, and I wanted to put together a slide because I was interested in learning more about the 3-year history of real estate trends, specifically in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, I work for Keller Williams in Franklin, which is probably about 20 minutes south of Nashville, Tennessee, if you drive down Interstate 65. And I work with the Michael Slick team within Keller Williams. So, um, hope I don't want to do that. So, without further ado, let me explain something to you before we even get any further, in this little short tutorial and discussion, really, if you will. Like I mentioned, I'm just specifically looking at this little area, Nashville, right here. There are plenty of areas around Nashville in the suburbs that are also growing at an extremely high rate. Middle Tennessee is experiencing a population influx right now like no other, and it is in the top 3 in the country from what I have read, comparable to Austin, Texas, and Denver, Colorado, and some of these other places. Places like Mount Juliet, Lebanon, Gallatin, Hendersonville, even Clarksville up here. There is an army base up here, Fort Campbell, that is experiencing some growth. Spring Hill and Columbia, the GM plant is right here at the end of this parkway here, at the end of Saturn Parkway. So, these areas, Columbia and, some of these other suburbs around Nashville obviously are experiencing a high level of growth right now, including the Franklin area where we are currently, which was actually voted #1 small town in America a couple times in years past. If you haven't been to Franklin, I would highly recommend it. And if you haven't been to Nashville, shame on you. But I wanted to put together this slide, basically. I wanted to go through this presentation because I have a couple of friends who are considering investing into businesses here in the Nashville area, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the growth that we've been experiencing and kind of talk about some of the trends over a 3-year history so that some of the people out there who are living here locally and also people who are thinking about moving in can understand what's going on in the Nashville market right now so that everybody can be prepared and, react accordingly. So without further ado, let's get started. Looking at the chart and looking at this information, I have to admit, I was pretty shocked, looking at the stats. Now, whenever I pulled these statistics, please understand, first and foremost, I was looking at single-family housing and townhomes. I wasn't including commercial properties and land lots and multifamily housing options and, foreclosures and other types of real estate and property. I was specifically looking at single-family housing, and how it relates with population influx and also basically real estate sales, because that's my job, that's my career. So, looking at a 3-year span, obviously we're looking from January 2014 here through February of 2017. And, there's been a lot of talk in the past about which months are hot, and everybody talks about it heating up in the spring. So I wanted to go back and take a look at it as well and see, was that the case? And I have to say, after looking at the stats and looking at the data, it is certainly reflecting that, March, April, May, and June, in a lot of cases have been the hottest months for real estate and people purchasing property. It's probably because the weather is warming back up after the winter. And as you can see, most of the time markets, including, interest rates and, other forms of finance and business, a lot of markets out there are cyclical. But as you can see, these peaks in these months, they drop back down towards the end of the year, and then they jump back up, and then they swing back down. So it is definitely reflective of a cyclical market. Despite the population influx here in Nashville, there are a lot of people moving into the Nashville area, and I'll talk about that in a second. But March through June have definitely been the hottest months for real estate here. Now this orange line here is actually homes not sold in Middle Tennessee despite the population influx. And I thought that it was extremely, extremely interesting, to see the number of homes that were not sold increase within the past year. Now, January and February, obviously, there are probably some homes that were listed, that haven't sold yet. But either way, these numbers inching up into the 400s here within the past year, the number of homes not sold in Tennessee with the growth that it's experiencing is extremely important and interesting to me, and kind of tells me a little bit about our market and what people are looking for. And we can save that for the discussion at the end. this little blue line here down at the bottom is the number of homes that either sold or went under contract in less than 7 days each month. So, in comparison to the percentage rate of what that is in the market, it went up from roughly somewhere about 10% here in 2014, and it has jumped up in the past couple of months, especially. It has jumped up into the 20s and almost 30% pretty much. So the number of homes that are going under contract is going up, despite the number of homes not being sold going up as well. So that tells me that, there are some indicators and some things that are happening that are really interesting in this market right now. And from a realtor perspective, and helping people list homes, it's going to be important that we identify those things so that, the clients that we're working with can understand how to sell their homes faster for more money and for the best terms of the contract. Now, I also want to take a look at something here outside of this presentation. So, some people might argue, well, the interest rates have gone up recently. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I wanted to go back and talk about that because that is an interesting point. So here is ycharts.com, and this is pretty cool that they have this information available to the public. But as you can see, let me get to 2014 here. So 2014, the interest rates were actually on average higher than what they are right now. Now, since 2014, you can see as I move my mouse to the right, it's gone down. Obviously, when we bottomed out within the past year here in 2016, they dropped all the way down to about 3.4. Now, I know at their lowest, they were about 3.3, if I'm not mistaken. But right back here in 2012, they were about 3.3. But over the spring and summer last year, I know they dropped down again to about 3.3, 3.5. USDA and FHA, they had extremely low rates. Obviously, VA has extremely competitive rates. We're currently sitting at about 4.1 right now. So that's where the interest rates are right now. So, if you were to look at it from, a 3-year perspective, you can kind of see that, the interest rate started at about 4.5 and they dropped down and they started raising again right after the election up to about 4.3. And now they have started dropping down again. And hopefully, as, April, May, June gets here, the summer gets closer, hopefully the rates will continue to kind of drop down and they won't inch back up. I would love that for my first-time buyers out there who are buying homes. It's been a little bit tough on them over the past month or so with their maximum approval rates going down because of the interest rate changes. So let's get back to the slides here. So now this is local census information, and I just wanted to point out, especially like I'd mentioned before, my friends who are thinking about starting businesses here, or if you're somebody out there thinking about investing in the Nashville market, I would highly encourage you to do so. Absolutely. Why? Nashville and Middle Tennessee right now is undergoing obviously an extreme influx in population growth. They are arguing that there's somewhere between 50 and 100 people moving into the Nashville area a day. And according to the Tennessean, there's an article published by some other people who they go into more detail in their stat research and, statisticians and everything more so than I do. I don't know if I couldn't do what they do. But, you can see right here, on average, a lot of people believe that there's about 85 people per day on average, moving into the Nashville area per day. So this is an article that was released by the Tennessean, and that was in May of 2016. So there are a lot of people moving in here every day. There's a little bit of a counterbalance. Obviously, there are people moving out as well, but, this article actually talks about that, despite the people moving out. And as you can see from some of the other data gathered, I went to the census.gov website for Tennessee. You can see here that the Nashville area, Nashville-Davidson area is growing twice as fast as the state of Tennessee, 8.5% versus 4%. And here are some of the predictions according to the Metro Planning Organization on what's going to happen in Nashville's future as we continue to grow. And this is, all areas. Obviously, these are counties, so Davidson, Murray, Robertson, Rutherford, Sumner counties. these are some of the predictions that will happen over the next 10 years, 20 years. And I would have to say that, the way that things look right now, it seems like it's going to be pretty accurate. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in the Nashville area if we were to, surpass really 750,000 people before 2035. I'd be surprised if it didn't, the way that it's growing right now. So, you guys, obviously these links are here. You're welcome to, type these in and, do some research on these things yourself, especially for people who are looking to invest in the Middle Tennessee area. It's also important to note, just from a fun perspective here, that Nashville is actually one of the friendliest cities in the country. So this is from 2016 here. And if it says it on Google, it has to be true, right? So Nashville is definitely one of the nicest cities, friendliest cities in America. So, for those of you out there who are thinking about moving into Middle Tennessee, thinking about moving into Nashville, do it. My hometown of Savannah, Georgia is on the list as well. So that's very cool. I didn't realize that the first time that I looked that up. So to get back to our slide here, so let's open it up for discussion. They're looking at the trend lines and noticing that, despite how many people are moving into the area, every day, every month, every year, the number of homes not sold is rising. Why is that? Especially with the number of homes that are being sold in less than 7 days, the competition for housing out there is increasing as well. So, what would that reason be? And if I had to answer that question, why is the number of homes not sold seemingly growing at a stronger rate than homes sold? Well, regardless of population growth, the preparation and the listing and the marketing plan that your realtor and these realtors in Middle Tennessee utilize, that makes an extremely big difference. The preparation that you do whenever you get a house ready to sell, making sure that you're working with a professional to talk with them about, what changes you can make, what to paint, carpets, replacing a roof if you have the money, and maybe an HVAC and, little things that we look at on a daily basis, being that we do this full time, this is our career. Things that we would recommend on doing before you put your house in your market to make your house as competitive, if not more competitive than every other house on the market. And I think that with technology out there these days, with people being able to jump online and do Google searches and, look at homes and photos of homes on demand at their fingertips, the people who are doing this are the ones that are, selling their houses for more money faster, and they're getting better terms on the contract. They're getting people basically to bid on their houses, and they're getting 10 offers, and they're able to select the best one, versus houses, sitting on the market and not a lot of traffic coming out to the houses and the ladder basically. So, so that obviously tells you everything that you need to know about, working with a professional versus, not working with a professional. I can tell you right now that Nashville has over 12,000 agents. It's easy to find one, and they will most certainly contact you if you jump on their website. We will certainly contact you if you jump on ours, but, finding one that can do a great job is not easy. Somebody that is professional, that, knows what they're doing. You got to make sure that you ask the right questions, and, working with an aggressive agent is also important as well. So we talked a little bit earlier about interest rates. So as the interest rates have risen, what does that say about the market? As interest rates rise, debt to income ratios, obviously they're going to tighten. So, if the interest rates throughout this year, I know that Janet Yellen and the Fed has talked about raising the borrowing rate for banks. So if she raises the rate again, like she did earlier this year, it's obviously going to affect our interest rates. And that in turn is going to affect mortgages, because at the end of the day, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, PITI, is how banks determine your maximum loan approval amount. So as these rates increase, it is going to lower the maximum approval amount for mortgages, and it's going to tighten some of the ratios and restrictions. So it's going to knock marginal buyers that are out of the market, and it's going to slightly decrease the demand. Now, in an area like Nashville, where people are moving in at a very high density right now, how much is that going to affect the market? Probably not a whole lot. But, for the small number of buyers out there, the small number of marginal buyers out there, that it will make a difference. And obviously it's going to impact their lives. They're going to have to rent versus own, own the house. So that is extremely important information to understand. So, and it also means that, the debt to income ratios, that it's not just low price point and low income buyers. It's people who, they might make $100,000 a year, but if they have a high level of debt, it's going to change their ratios as well and change how much money they're able to borrow from the bank. So it's also important to note that it is buyers in every income level based on their debt to income ratio. So, as the interest rates increase, I know that before the 3-year mark, before 2014, way back when, back in, I think somebody told me that it was the 70s or 80s, interest rates used to be over 10%. They used to be 12, 13, 14%. Obviously, if there was that drastic of a change, if we went from 4.1%, like we looked at ycharts.com right now, and it doubled per se, let's just say something, affected the interest rate to change, and Janet Yellen increasing the rate or something like that. Let's just say interest rates were to double. That is definitely going to change the population of buyers out there and the quality of those buyers that are on the market. So we will most definitely see changes as interest rates change. So for all of you young homeowners out there, for people that, have young families and, are learning about a lot of this stuff for the first time, through our lives, depending on what happens, if you see interest rates change, it is going to change the economy. It'll definitely change markets. It'll change real estate. And even in places like Nashville that are experiencing a high level of growth right now. So obviously, if you guys have any questions, you can give me a shout. Thank you so much for watching this. I will leave it open for discussion. You're welcome to leave a comment. I have a Facebook page. If you want to hunt that down, you can send me an email. I love talking about real estate. And obviously this is our website here, byron.homesearchingnashvillearea.com. This is our address. So, for more information on listing your home or to schedule a consultation, you've got all of my information here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it answers all of your questions. If you have any more, just give me a shout. Y'all take care.